Dr. Lisa Rodriguez never thought she would meet someone from another world while wearing her old pajamas and fuzzy slippers. But that's exactly what happened on that strange Tuesday night when everything in her life changed forever. Lisa was a scientist who studied space and the possibility of life on other planets. She had spent 20 years looking at stars through telescopes and examining rocks from space, always wondering if we were alone in the universe. She lived in a quiet house on the edge of town, surrounded by trees and far from the city lights. That would block her view of the night sky. That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She had been working on a research paper about possible alien life forms when she heard something unusual outside. At first, she thought it might be a wounded deer or maybe a lost dog. The sound was like crying, but different somehow. It made her heart ache in a way she couldn't explain. She put on her robe and stepped onto her back porch. The night was clear, and stars filled the sky like tiny diamonds. But something was wrong. There was a strange glow coming from behind the large oak tree in her backyard. The light was soft and blue, nothing like the harsh white light from street lamps or car headlights. As Lisa walked closer, she saw something that made her stop breathing for a moment. There was a small craft, about the size of a car, sitting in her garden. It looked like it was made of some kind of metal that seemed to shift and change color in the moonlight. Steam was rising from it, and she could see cracks along its surface. Then she saw her. The being that stepped out from behind the damaged craft was unlike anything Lisa had ever imagined. She was small, maybe 4 feet tall, with skin that looked like it was made of liquid silver mixed with the soft blue of morning sky. She had 4 arms instead of 2, and her hands were delicate with long, graceful fingers. But it was her eyes. That took Lisa's breath away. They were large and expressive, filled with a sadness so deep it seemed to hold all the pain in the universe. The alien being was holding something close to her chest, cradling it with all 4 arms. Lisa could see it was tiny, no bigger than a human baby. But it was clearly not from Earth. The little creature was barely moving, and its skin looked pale and dull compared to its mother's shimmering appearance. For a long moment, the 2 mothers just looked at each other across the small space of Lisa's backyard. One from Earth, one from somewhere among the stars, but both understanding something that needed no words. Then the alien being spoke, and Lisa was amazed to realize she could understand her. The words came not through her ears, but somehow directly into her mind, accompanied by pictures and feelings that made the meaning crystal clear. "Please," the alien mother said, her mental voice filled with desperation. "My baby is dying. I have traveled so far and my body has failed me. My milk dried up days ago during our journey. My little one hasn't eaten anything since then. I detected signals from your world and crashed here, hoping that someone, anyone, might help us." Lisa felt tears forming in her eyes as she looked at the tiny alien baby. Its breathing was shallow and weak, and even though it was a creature from another world, she could see it was starving. The mother's love was so obvious, so pure, that it didn't matter that they were from different planets. "I saw your lights," the alien mother continued, gesturing toward Lisa's house where her computer and laboratory equipment created a soft glow through the windows. "I thought maybe you were someone who might understand, someone who studies the stars like we do." Lisa's scientific mind was racing with 1,000 questions, but her human heart was focused on one thing. This was a mother asking for help to save her child. It was the most basic, most universal request in existence. "What's your name?" Lisa asked softly, speaking out loud while also trying to project her thoughts the way the alien seemed to do. The being's response came as a musical sound that Lisa's human ears and mind translated into something like Zara. It wasn't exactly right, but it was close enough. "I'm Lisa," she said. "And yes, I study space and stars. I've been looking for signs of life like yours for my whole career." Zara's eyes filled with what looked like tears, though they sparkled like liquid starlight. Will you help us? I know we are strangers to you, different from your kind. But my baby is innocent. She has done nothing wrong. She just needs to eat. Lisa looked at the dying infant and made the easiest decision of her life. Of course I'll help. Come inside where it's warm and let me see what I can do. As they walked toward her house, Zara explained more about their situation. She and her baby had been traveling from a distant star system when their ship's life support began to fail. The stress of the long journey and the fear for her child's safety had caused her body to stop producing the milk her baby needed to survive. On my world, we have special foods and medicines that can help when this happens, Zara explained. But I have none of that here. I only have hope that your people might have something, anything, that could save her. Lisa's house was filled with scientific equipment, books, and computer screens showing data from space. Zara looked around with wonder, recognizing some of the star charts and images from deep space. You really do study our part of the sky, Zara said with amazement. These pictures are from near my home system. As Lisa prepared a soft blanket for the alien baby and started thinking about what she might be able to do, she realized that this moment would change everything. Not just for her, but potentially for all of humanity. First contact with an alien species was happening in her living room, and it wasn't about technology or war or conquest. It was about the most human thing of all, one mother asking another for help to save her child. The baby made a small, weak sound, and both mothers looked down at her with the same expression of love and concern. In that moment, Lisa understood that love really was universal, and that sometimes the most important discoveries come not from looking up at the stars, but from looking into each other's hearts. Jake was chopping wood outside the cabin when he heard the helicopters. The sound was faint at first, but it was getting louder and closer. He dropped his axe and ran inside, where Lyra and Nova were sitting by the fire, working on some kind of device they'd salvaged from their crashed ship. We need to hide, Jake said urgently. There are helicopters coming, and I don't think they're here for a rescue. Both sisters looked up, their violet eyes wide with alarm. What kind of helicopters? Lyra asked. The kind that means trouble for you two, Jake said, grabbing his binoculars and looking out the window. In the distance, he could see 3 black helicopters flying in formation toward the mountain. Those are military aircraft. Someone must have detected your crash. Nova stood up quickly, her hands starting to glow with nervous energy. What do we do? Jake's mind raced. He'd heard stories about government agencies that investigated strange phenomena. If they found the sisters, there was no telling what would happen to them. We run. Now. He threw supplies into his backpack while the sisters gathered their few belongings. The device they'd been working on looked important, so Lyra tucked it carefully into her torn jacket. Our ship, she said. If they find it. One problem at a time, Jake said, slinging his pack over his shoulders. Can you two handle rough terrain? Nova smiled despite the danger. We are from an ice planet, remember? We know cold and difficult paths. They slipped out the back of the cabin just as the helicopters came into view over the trees. Jake led them into the thick forest, using every trail and hiding spot he'd learned during years of photographing wildlife in these mountains. Behind them, he could hear the helicopters landing near his cabin. They will have tracking equipment, Lyra said as they climbed higher into the mountains. Technology that can follow heat signatures? Then we need to stay cold, Jake replied. Can you two do something about that? The sisters looked at each other and nodded. Suddenly, Jake felt the temperature around them drop. Not enough to hurt him, but enough that their body heat would be much harder to detect. Nova took his hand, and he felt a warm, tingling sensation, even as the air grew colder. We can keep you comfortable, she said with a small smile. It is the least we can do. They climbed for hours, moving from rock to avoid leaving footprints in the snow. Jake knew these mountains well, but he'd never had to hide from military helicopters before. Every time he heard the sound of rotor blades in the distance, they would duck under overhanging rocks or behind thick trees. As the sun began to set, they found shelter in a small cave that Jake had discovered years ago while tracking a family of bears. It was hidden behind a waterfall and would be almost impossible to spot from the air. Inside the cave, they caught their breath and shared some of the food Jake had packed. But the mood was tense. All three of them knew they couldn't run forever. "This is our fault," Lyra said quietly, staring at the cave floor. "We have brought danger to you. We should surrender ourselves and let you go back to your normal life." "Absolutely not," Jake said firmly. "I'm not letting anyone take you." Nova looked up at him with tears in her violet eyes. "But why? We have caused you nothing but problems. First with our marriage customs, now with these people hunting us. You would be safer without us." Jake sat down between them, feeling his heart breaking. "Do you really think I care about my safety more than what happens to you?" "You should," Lyra said. "You barely know us. We are strangers from another world." "You're not strangers," Jake said, surprised by the strength in his own voice. "Not to me. In the past week, you've become the most important people in my life." Both sisters stared at him. "What are you saying?" Nova whispered. Jake took a deep breath. He'd been avoiding this conversation, but hiding in a cave while being hunted by the government seemed like the right time for honesty. "I'm saying I love you. Both of you. I know it sounds crazy, and I know it's complicated, but I can't imagine my life without either of you in it." The cave fell silent, except for the sound of water dripping somewhere in the darkness. Then Nova threw her arms around Jake's neck, and he could feel her tears on his shoulder. "We love you too," she said. "Both of us, from the moment you saved us." Lyra reached over and took Jake's hand. "On Zephyria, we have another saying. The heart knows no borders. We tried to follow our customs about the sacred bond, but the truth is, what we feel for you goes far beyond duty or tradition." Jake felt like his chest might explode with emotion. "So what do we do now?" "We survive," Lyra said simply. "Together. Whatever comes next, we face it as a family." They spent the night taking turns, keeping watch while the others slept. Jake learned more about the sisters' abilities as they used them to keep the cave warm and to sense if anyone was approaching. Nova could hear sounds from incredibly far away, while Lyra could somehow feel the electromagnetic signatures of the helicopter's equipment. "They are searching in a pattern," Lyra reported during her watch. "Moving systematically through the forest. They will find our ship soon if they have not already." "What's on that ship that they might want?" Jake asked. "Advanced technology," Nova said sadly. "Things that could change your world, but also things that could be used to hurt people if they fell into the wrong hands." Jake understood. The government wasn't just hunting two lost aliens. They were after potentially dangerous technology that could give them an advantage over other countries. "Is there any way to destroy it?" he asked. "To make sure no one can use it?" Both sisters looked shocked. "You would ask us to destroy our only way home?" Lyra said. "Only if it keeps you safe," Jake replied. "We'll find another way to get you home if that's what you want, but not if it means you get locked up in some government lab for the rest of your lives." Nova squeezed his hand. "What if we do not want to go home? What if we want to stay here with you?" "Then we make that work too," Jake said. "But first we have to make sure you're not captured." As dawn broke, they could hear helicopters in the distance, closer than before. The search was tightening around them. "We need to get to your ship," Jake said. "If we're going to destroy it, we have to do it before they figure out how to use the technology." "It is too dangerous," Lyra protested. "They will be watching the crash site." "Then we'll have to be smarter than them," Jake said, shouldering his pack. "You two know your technology better than they do. That has to count for something." As they prepared to leave the cave, Nova grabbed Jake's arm. Promise us something, she said. If we are caught, promise you will not try to rescue us. Promise you will save yourself. Jake looked into her violet eyes, then at Lyra's worried face. I can't promise that. Please, Lyra said. We could not bear it if something happened to you because of us. Jake pulled both sisters close. Listen to me. We're all going to be okay. We're going to get through this together, and then we're going to figure out how to build a life that works for all three of us. I don't care if it's here on Earth or on Zephyria or on some planet none of us have ever heard of. But we're staying together. Both sisters smiled through their tears, and Jake felt that familiar warmth in his chest. Whatever happened next, at least they all knew where they stood. They loved each other, and that love was going to have to be strong enough to get them through whatever came next. Lisa worked through the night like she had never worked before. Her small laboratory, which was usually quiet and organized, now buzzed with activity as she ran test after test on the samples that Zara had willingly provided. Every few minutes, she would glance over at Nova, who was sleeping fitfully in a soft basket lined with Lisa's warmest blankets. Zara sat nearby, watching Lisa work with amazement. Despite coming from a world with advanced technology, she was impressed by the careful way Lisa handled each sample, the patience she showed with every failed experiment, and the determination in her eyes that never seemed to fade. Your equipment is different from ours, Zara observed, but the way you work, the way you care about getting it right, that's the same across all worlds. Lisa smiled without looking up from her microscope. Science is science, no matter where you're from. But this isn't just about science anymore. This is about saving Nova. As the hours passed, Lisa's coffee grew cold and her eyes grew tired, but she kept working. She had already discovered something remarkable about Zara's biology. Despite coming from a completely different world, their basic body chemistry shared surprising similarities. Both species needed proteins to build and repair their bodies, minerals to keep their systems running, and sugars for energy. This is incredible, Zara, Lisa said, looking up from a test result with excitement. Your people and humans are more alike than we are different. It's like we're distant cousins who grew up in different neighborhoods. But finding similarities was only part of the puzzle. The specific types of proteins and minerals that Nova needed were still a mystery. Lisa had tried creating a basic mixture using human baby formula as a starting point, but when she tested it on a small sample of Zara's blood, the results weren't promising. It's not toxic, Lisa explained, but it's not right either. Nova needs something more specific, something that matches her exact biology. Zara's shoulders sagged with disappointment. I was hoping it would be simple. Don't give up yet, Lisa said firmly. I have an idea, but I need to show you something. Lisa led Zara to a special cabinet in her laboratory where she kept her most precious samples. Inside were dozens of small containers, each carefully labeled and stored at specific temperatures. These are meteorite samples, Lisa explained, opening the cabinet. Rocks from space that have fallen to Earth over the years. Some of them are from very far away, maybe even from near your home system. Zara's eyes widened as she looked at the collection. She reached out toward one particular sample, then stopped. May I? Of course. When Zara touched the meteorite sample, her skin began to glow slightly, the same way it had when she first communicated with Lisa. This one, she said with excitement. This rock came from near my world. I can feel it. Lisa carefully examined the sample that had caught Zara's attention. It was a small piece of rock that had fallen in the desert 3 years ago, dark gray with tiny flecks of unusual minerals that had always puzzled her. What if, Lisa said, her mind racing with possibilities. What if this meteorite contains minerals that your species needs? Minerals that aren't naturally found on Earth? Working together, they spent the next several hours analyzing the meteorite. Lisa used her equipment to break down the rock and identify its components, while Zara used her natural ability to sense which elements felt familiar and safe. "There," Zara said, pointing to a reading on Lisa's computer screen. "That mineral, the one your machine is showing in blue. We call it something that translates to life spark. Nova needs it to process food properly." Lisa felt her heart race with hope. "So if I can extract this mineral and combine it with a modified version of human baby formula, it might work," Zara finished, her voice filled with cautious optimism. The process of extracting the mineral was delicate and time-consuming. Lisa had to heat the meteorite sample to exactly the right temperature, then use chemicals to separate the life spark mineral from the other components. One mistake could destroy the sample, and she didn't have enough meteorite to try again. Zara held Nova while Lisa worked, singing soft songs in her alien language that sounded like gentle wind and distant stars. The baby seemed to respond to her mother's voice, moving slightly and making small sounds that weren't quite as weak as before. "She knows you're trying to help her," Zara said to Lisa. "She's holding on." Finally, after what felt like forever, Lisa had successfully extracted a small amount of the precious mineral. She carefully mixed it with a modified baby formula, adjusting the protein content and sugar levels based on everything she had learned about Zara's biology. "This is it," Lisa said, holding up a small bottle filled with pale, shimmering liquid. "This is our best shot." Zara took the bottle with trembling hands. "What if it doesn't work? What if it makes her sicker?" Lisa sat down beside her new friend and gently touched her shoulder. "Zara, I've tested this mixture on your blood samples, and all the results look good. But more than that, I believe it will work because it was made with love. Every minute I spent working on this, I was thinking about Nova, about you, about how much you both mean to me now." Zara looked at Lisa with surprise. "We mean something to you?" "Of course you do," Lisa said simply. "You're not just an alien visitor anymore. You're my friend, and Nova isn't just a baby from another world. She's a little person who deserves to live and grow and see all the wonderful things the universe has to offer." With infinite care, Zara lifted the bottle to Nova's tiny mouth. At first, the baby didn't respond. Then, slowly, she began to drink. The effect was almost immediate. Nova's pale, dull skin began to take on a healthier glow, and her breathing became deeper and more regular. "It's working," Zara whispered, tears of joy streaming down her face. "Lisa, it's really working." Lisa felt her own tears flowing as she watched Nova drink eagerly from the bottle. After being hungry for so many days, the little alien baby was finally getting the nutrition she desperately needed. But as they celebrated this small victory, Lisa noticed something else happening. Zara's own skin was beginning to glow more brightly, and she was sitting up straighter, looking stronger than she had since arriving on Earth. "Zara," Lisa said with wonder, "I think helping Nova is helping you too. It's like your body knows she's going to be okay, and it's starting to recover." Zara nodded, looking down at her baby with amazement. "On my world, we believe that a mother's body is connected to her child's well-being. When Nova is healthy, I can be healthy too." As the first rays of morning sunlight began to stream through Lisa's laboratory windows, both mothers sat together, watching Nova finish her first real meal in days. The baby's eyes were brighter, her movements stronger, and her little sounds more content. "Thank you," Zara said softly. "You saved her life. You saved both our lives." Lisa smiled, feeling exhausted but happier than she had ever been. "We're not done yet. This formula will help Nova for now, but we need to find a way to help your body start producing milk again. And we need to check on your friends in the ship. But for now, in this quiet moment as the sun rose on a new day, two mothers from different worlds shared the joy of knowing that love, science, and determination had won the first battle in keeping little Nova alive. 3 days had passed since Nova's first successful feeding, and Lisa's quiet life had become anything but quiet. Word was starting to spread about the strange lights and unusual energy readings that satellites had detected near her property. She tried to stay calm, but when she saw the black cars driving slowly past her house for the third time that morning, she knew they were in trouble. Zara sensed the danger before Lisa even mentioned it. Her advanced hearing picked up the sound of electronic equipment scanning the area, and her natural instincts as a mother kicked into full protective mode. "They're looking for us," Zara said quietly, holding Nova close to her chest. The baby had grown stronger over the past few days, her skin now glowing with healthy color, but she was still too young and fragile to handle any kind of stress. Lisa peeked through her kitchen window and saw men in dark suits setting up equipment at the edge of her property. "We need to leave, now." But where could they go? Lisa had spent her entire adult life in this house, surrounded by her books and equipment. She had never been the kind of person who made lots of friends or built big social networks. She was a scientist who preferred the company of stars to people. Then she remembered Dr. Patricia Williams. Patricia was an old friend from college who had always been different from other scientists. While most researchers focused on publishing papers and winning awards, Patricia cared more about doing the right thing. She had spent years arguing that if humanity ever made contact with alien life, it should be handled with care and respect, not fear and weapons. "I know someone who might help us," Lisa told Zara as she quickly packed essential supplies. "She's been preparing for a situation like this for years." Lisa called Patricia from her cell phone, speaking in code they had developed years ago during late-night conversations about first contact scenarios. "Patricia, it's Lisa. I found those unusual rock samples we talked about, the really special ones, but some people want to take them away from me." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Patricia's voice came through, calm but urgent. "How special are we talking about?" "Life-changing special. And there's a family involved." "I understand. Meet me at the old observatory in the mountains. You know the one. I'll gather some friends who might be interested in your research." Within an hour, Lisa had loaded her most important equipment into her old truck, while Zara carefully secured Nova in a makeshift car seat. As they drove away from Lisa's house, they could see more official-looking vehicles arriving. "Where are we going?" Zara asked, her forearms wrapped protectively around her baby. "To see people who believe that science should help, not hurt," Lisa replied. "People who think that meeting your species should be about friendship, not fear." The drive to the mountain observatory took 3 hours on winding roads that led far from civilization. Lisa had visited this place many times as a student, back when it was an active research facility. Now it sat abandoned by the government, but Patricia and her friends had been quietly using it for their own projects. When they arrived, Lisa was amazed to see how much work had been done on the old building. Solar panels provided clean electricity, and several small buildings had been added to house equipment and living spaces. It looked like a place where serious scientific work could be done, far from the eyes of people who might not understand. Patricia met them at the entrance, and Lisa was relieved to see her old friend's kind face. Patricia was a woman in her 50s, with gray hair and gentle eyes that missed nothing. When she saw Zara holding Nova, her expression filled with wonder, but also with determination. "Welcome to our sanctuary," Patricia said simply. "You're safe here." Over the next few hours, Lisa and Zara met the small group of scientists who had been secretly preparing for this moment. There was Dr. Michael Chen, an expert in nutrition who specialized in creating food for extreme situations. Dr. Angela Rivera studied how different species might communicate and understand each other. Professor David Kim was a medical researcher who had spent years wondering how alien biology might work. None of them treated Zara like a specimen to be studied. Instead, they welcomed her like a colleague, and Nova like a precious child who needed protection. "We've been talking about this day for 20 years, Patricia explained, as they sat around a comfortable living room in the main building. "We always believed that when we finally met people from other worlds, it should be handled with wisdom and kindness, not fear and weapons." Dr. Chen immediately began working with Lisa to improve the formula they had created for Nova. "This is brilliant work," he said, examining Lisa's notes. "But I think we can make it even better. We can create something that will not only feed the baby but help restore Zara's natural ability to produce milk." Over the following days, the small team worked together like they had been preparing for this their whole lives. Dr. Rivera spent hours learning to communicate with Zara, discovering that her species had developed amazing ways to share thoughts and feelings. Professor Kim carefully studied the medical information that Zara was willing to share, always asking permission and explaining everything he wanted to do. Most importantly, they created a safe space where Nova could grow and develop. Normally, the baby was thriving on the improved formula, and every day she became more active and alert. She began to recognize Lisa's voice and would make happy sounds when she saw Patricia's face. But their peaceful sanctuary wasn't going to remain secret forever. On the 5th day, Zara's sensitive hearing picked up the sound of aircraft in the distance. "They've found us," she said quietly. Lisa looked out the window and saw helicopters on the horizon, moving in their direction. Her heart sank as she realized that their time of peace was coming to an end. Patricia gathered everyone together in the main room. "We always knew this moment would come," she said calmly. "The question is, what do we do now?" Zara stood up, still, holding Nova, and looked at each of the humans who had become her friends. "I won't let you get in trouble because of us. We should run, hide somewhere else, keep Nova safe without putting you in danger." "No," Lisa said firmly. "We're not running anymore. We're not hiding. What we've done here isn't wrong. We've saved a baby's life and made friends with someone from another world. That's something to be proud of, not something to hide from." Dr. Chen nodded in agreement. "The world needs to see what we've learned here. They need to understand that first contact doesn't have to be scary, it can be beautiful." As the sound of the helicopters grew louder, Nova began to fuss. Zara sang to her in the gentle, musical language of their world, and the baby calmed down immediately. In that moment, everyone in the room understood that they were witnessing something precious that needed to be protected. "Whatever happens next," Patricia said, "we face it together. All of us." Outside, the helicopters were landing, and they could see people in official uniforms getting out. The peaceful sanctuary was about to become the center of the most important moment in human history. But inside the building, a group of scientists and one alien mother were ready to show the world that love and understanding were stronger than fear, and that sometimes the most important discoveries happen not in laboratories, but in the bonds between friends who are willing to help each other, no matter how different they might be. The helicopters landed in a cloud of dust and noise that made Nova cry despite her mother's gentle singing. Through the windows of the observatory, Lisa could see at least 20 people in military uniforms setting up equipment and creating a perimeter around the building. Her heart was pounding, but she felt strangely calm as she looked around at her friends who had become like family over the past week. Zara stood in the center of the room, holding Nova close, her silver-blue skin glowing slightly in the way it did when she was making an important decision. "I won't hide anymore," she said quietly. "My baby is healthy now, thanks to all of you. She's strong enough to face whatever comes next." Dr. Patricia Williams stepped forward, her gray hair catching the morning light. "Zara, you don't have to do this. We can find another way." But Zara shook her head. "For too long, my people, and your people have lived in the same universe without knowing each other. Maybe it's time that changed." A loud voice came through a speaker from outside. "This is Colonel James Mitchell. We know you have an extraterrestrial visitor inside. We need you to send her out immediately for the safety of everyone involved." Lisa felt anger rising in her chest. For the safety of everyone, we've been perfectly safe. Nova is just a baby. Patricia placed a calm hand on Lisa's shoulder. Let me handle this. She walked to the window and called out, Colonel Mitchell, this is Dr. Patricia Williams. I'm a xenobiologist, and I can assure you that our visitors pose no threat to anyone. They came here seeking help, not to cause harm. Ma'am, we have our orders. Any extraterrestrial contact must be contained and studied under proper security protocols. Zara listened to this exchange with growing sadness. They want to separate me from Nova, she said softly. They want to study us like we're things, not people. That's not going to happen, Lisa said firmly. Not while I'm here. What happened next surprised everyone, including Zara herself. Instead of feeling afraid or angry, she felt a deep sense of peace. She had traveled across the vast emptiness of space, nearly lost her baby, and found help from strangers who became friends. Now it was time to do something that might change both their worlds forever. I'm going outside, Zara announced. Zara, no! Lisa protested, but Zara was already moving toward the door, carrying Nova in her arms. Trust me, she said with a smile that reminded Lisa of Starlight. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is show people who you really are. Before anyone could stop her, Zara opened the front door of the observatory and stepped outside into the bright morning sun. The effect was immediate and stunning. Her skin, which had looked beautiful but unusual indoors, now caught the sunlight and reflected it like liquid silver mixed with the blue of a perfect sky. She looked like a being made of light and grace. The soldiers, who had been prepared for anything from weapons to strange technology, simply stopped and stared. Here was an alien mother holding her baby, walking toward them with no fear in her posture, only a quiet dignity that spoke of intelligence and peace. Hello, Zara said, her voice carrying clearly across the space between them. My name is Zara, and this is my daughter Nova. We come from a world very far from here, and we mean no harm to anyone. Colonel Mitchell, a stern-faced man in his 50s, stepped forward cautiously. Ma'am, we need you to come with us for questioning and evaluation. Zara tilted her head slightly the way someone might when trying to understand a foreign language. Colonel Mitchell, may I ask you something? Do you have children? The question clearly caught him off guard. Yes, I have 2 daughters. Then you understand, Zara said gently, that a mother will do anything to protect her child. I have traveled farther than you can imagine because my baby was dying. These people, she gestured toward the observatory where Lisa and the others were now standing in the doorway, saved her life. They didn't ask for anything in return. They helped us because it was the right thing to do. Nova chose that moment to make one of her happy, chiming sounds, and several of the soldiers couldn't help but smile, even from a different world. The sound of a content baby was universally charming. Sir, one of the younger soldiers said quietly, she doesn't seem dangerous. Colonel Mitchell looked at Zara, then at the baby, then at the group of scientists, standing protectively nearby. This wasn't at all what he had been prepared for. His orders had been to secure any alien contact, but they hadn't prepared him for dealing with a mother who was clearly just trying to take care of her child. What do you want? He asked Zara. I want my baby to grow up in a universe where people from different worlds can be friends, Zara replied simply. I want her to learn about your beautiful planet and your amazing people, and I want your people to know that there are others out there among the stars who wish you well. Dr. Rivera stepped forward from the group of scientists. Colonel, may I suggest something? Instead of taking Zara away for questioning, why don't we invite some officials here to meet with her? Let them see what we've learned, how we've been able to communicate and work together. Patricia nodded enthusiastically. This could be the beginning of something wonderful instead of something frightening. First contact doesn't have to be about military containment. It can be about scientific cooperation and friendship. Lisa watched as Colonel Mitchell wrestled with the decision. She could see that he was a good man who was trying to do his duty, but who was also beginning to understand that his duty might be more complicated than he had thought. "I need to make some phone calls," he said finally. "But I want everyone to stay here while I do that. No one leaves. No one tries to run." "We're not going anywhere," Zara said peacefully. "This is where my friends are." Over the next several hours, something remarkable happened. Instead of a tense standoff, the area around the observatory became the site of the most extraordinary meeting in human history. Officials, scientists, and military personnel arrived from around the world, but instead of treating Zara as a threat, they began to see her as she really was, an intelligent being from another world who had come seeking help and friendship. Nova became the star of the show, charming everyone with her bright eyes and musical sounds. When she reached out with one tiny hand to touch a general's finger, the moment was captured by cameras and became the image that would be remembered forever as the beginning of peaceful contact between worlds. Dr. Chen presented his research on the formula that had saved Nova's life, showing how cooperation between species had led to a medical breakthrough. Patricia explained how communication had been established, proving that understanding was possible even across the vast differences between worlds. Most importantly, Zara herself spoke to the world's leaders, sharing her people's desire for peaceful contact and cultural exchange. She explained that there were others among the stars who had been watching Earth with curiosity and hope, waiting for the right moment to make contact. "We have been listening to your music," Zara told a room full of world leaders who had gathered via video conference. "We have been amazed by your art, your stories, your capacity for love and creativity. We don't want to conquer or control. We want to learn from each other." As the sun set on that extraordinary day, Lisa sat with Zara and Nova in the quiet garden behind the observatory. The baby was feeding normally now, Zara's body having fully recovered its ability to produce milk, thanks to the care and medicine the team had provided. "What happens now?" Lisa asked. Zara smiled, her skin glowing softly in the evening light. "Now, Nova grows up knowing that the universe is full of friends she hasn't met yet. Now, our peoples begin to learn from each other. And now you and I continue to be friends, even though we come from different stars." Nova made a contented sound and reached up toward the first stars appearing in the darkening sky. In her young eyes, Lisa could see the reflection of countless worlds and the promise of a future where the distances between them would no longer matter. The little alien baby who had nearly died from hunger had become the bridge between two worlds, and her mother's desperate plea for help had opened the door to the greatest friendship in the history of the universe. Love, it turned out, really was the most powerful force of all, capable of crossing any distance and overcoming any barrier, even the vast emptiness between the stars.